Hi friends, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I'm Wendy and welcome to my mobile home sweet home. Today I want to talk to you about your rights as a tenant when you have your mobile home situated in a mobile home park that you own or are in the process of purchasing your mobile home. I live in the state of Washington, so I got online and I printed out this handy little booklet, and it is Tenant Rights under the Manufacturer Mobile Home Landlord Tenant Act. Now, this applies to the state of Washington. So I would strongly encourage you to get online and find out what that is in your particular state, because laws, while they may pretty much be the same for the most part, there can and probably are slight differences state to state. So I would really encourage you to get online and see what you can find out about that information in your particular state. Anyway, I don't want to go over all of it because it's lengthy, and this isn't a big legal advice video by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm not giving anyone legal advice. I'm just kind of talking about common sense stuff. You need to protect yourself. First and foremost, you need to protect yourself. And one of the sections in this information that I printed out, it talks about protecting yourself. For instance, keep copies of all documents that, like your rental agreement, the park rules, any notices or letters from the landlord. You need to keep that stuff. Keep copies of it. Get yourself a file folder or a box or whatever works for you, and keep track of this stuff, because you never know when something could come up and you might need to refer back to something or provide something. You just never know. There could be a million different scenarios that would require something like that. But also, one thing that is also very important is to make note of conversations that you have, especially with the landlord. If you're having a conversation with that person and it's something important or serious, make sure that when you're done, you write down the date and the time, who you spoke with, and what was said during the conversation. Because again, you never know, say they call you and you've got to do this, this, and that. You can't have that pile of leaves laying in your yard for more than 3 days. Well, the landlord told me I could leave it there till Friday until I could get somebody out here to take care of it for me. Well, that's not what it says here. It's just something like that. It's just an example, but I think you get my meaning. So you want to be able to refer back to your notes and be able to say, well, I talked to John Doe on such and such date and time, and this is what he told me. So, that stuff can be very, very important. So you never know. Also, this talks about if you have to send your landlord any notice, like if you're getting ready to sell your home, you have to give the landlord a certain amount of notice. I forget what that is, and I'm not going to stand here and leaf through this booklet while I look it up. But you have to if you decide to sell your mobile home, you have to let your landlord know that, say 2 weeks notice or whatever it is. You need to find that out. But you can do it verbally, but always, always follow up in writing. Even though you may have told him when you ran into him down at the clubhouse, hey, I'm, listing my house for sale, you still need to follow up with a letter, something in writing. And anytime you mail something to your landlord, you always send it regular and certified mail, return receipt requested, so you can prove that you sent it and they received it. Because, and this happens a lot, you say, well, I sent you that. Well, I never received it. Yeah, you did, because I've got this little card right here and you signed for it. So, yes, you did receive it, and you received it on, March 5th, 2018. So, again, you always want to keep your ducks in a row, and there's a little saying, it's called CYA. cover your behind. You always want to be able to prove what you said and what you did. So keep that in mind, and this is just kind of common sense things like when you pay your rent, excuse me, always, if you pay in cash, always get a receipt on the spot. Don't, go over to pay your rent with cash and have them say, oh, I can't find my receipt book. Can you come back tomorrow and I'll write you a receipt? No, no. Don't do that, because if they forget, or maybe somebody's not being completely honest, you never know. So always get a receipt at the time that you pay. It'd be better if you didn't pay in cash, but if that's all you can do, then that's what you have to do. Now, like for myself, I don't have a checking account. Well, I have a checking account, but I don't write checks anymore. I got rid of that a long time ago. It was just a big pain. So every month on payday at the first of the month, I trot myself down to the bank and I get a cashier's check for my rent. It cost me $2, but that's the way it goes. To me, it's worth it because I've got proof that I paid in case something ever comes up. And actually, that did happen to me a couple years ago. One day, the office gal called me and said, "Hey, Wendy, I just noticed on our records that you didn't pay your rent in November." And I was just like, oh, what? And I'm thinking, no, that cannot be right. I always pay my rent. That is the first thing I do every payday. I pay my rent. That comes out right off the top before food, electricity bills, anything else. That is my number one thing I do is I pay my rent. I go get a cashier's check and I put it, they have a little drop box over by the mailboxes that you can stick your rent in. There's a little slot in it and you just stick the envelope in there. I do that religiously every month on payday. So anyway, I said, yes, I did. And she said, no, you didn't. And I said, okay, well, let me call my bank and I'll get back to you. And she's, okay. So I called the bank and they said, yeah, you did. We've got a copy of the cashier's check here, but it was never cashed. Okay, so I call her back. And well, what happened was the landlord's elderly and he kind of was having trouble at the time. He had, misplaced things, or, he'd go pick up the rent out of the box, the lockbox, and then, well, anyway, he lost it. So they asked me to go get a replacement for the cashier's check. So I did that. I went to my bank, and they're so sweet in there, and they didn't even charge me for that, although they could have. But so anyway, I got a new cashier's check for that particular month and went up and handed it to her directly. So, but anyway, in a case like that, it's good that you can prove that you did in fact pay something. So that's just something to keep in mind. And that's just kind of common sense stuff. Now, the rest of the stuff I wanted to talk about is mainly just common sense stuff. Be a good neighbor. If you live in a mobile home park, and this applies to a mobile home park or an apartment or, a city block. Anytime you have neighbors, you don't ever want to be that guy. That guy that everybody's like, oh, God, that guy, he's so annoying. He's just rude and he doesn't care about anybody else. It's stuff like just simple stuff. Don't blare your music outside while you're washing your car. Yeah, go ahead, listen to music if you want to, but everybody around you might not want to listen to it too. So, don't have it blasting. Just be considerate. If it's past 10 o'clock at night, don't start getting your drum set out and practicing. It's just things like that. And barking dogs. Oh my goodness. I think we've all probably experienced that before at some time during our lives, having that neighbor that has a dog that barks incessantly, and they apparently can sleep through it because they don't ever do anything about it. And everybody else that lives around them is about ready to strangle them. So, just be polite, be a good neighbor, be considerate of other people. And one thing living in a mobile home park that's really important, follow the rules. It doesn't have to be difficult. It just makes it hard for everybody if somebody isn't following the rules. Because what happens is, oftentimes, if somebody isn't following the rules and they're abusing a privilege, well, that privilege gets taken away and then everybody suffers. So, show respect and follow the rules. If you have a problem with a certain rule that is required of you living in that park, go talk to your landlord. Maybe it's something that, they can change or do something to. It just, obviously depends on what it is. But, that's just kind of a little PSA I wanted to make. Public service announcement. So, it's just really important when you're living in kind of close quarters to other people. Just be nice. Be a nice person. It just makes life so much easier for everybody. Remember, I would really like to see all of you get online and see what the laws are for the landlord tenant stuff, for what applies to mobile homes in your state, because it's different when you are renting a space while you own the home than if you were renting the mobile home and the space. That's different. So there is a difference. So you need to get online or call if you have a legal aid in your area. A lot of times they can provide information on landlord tenant stuff, especially if they do housing issues. Or call, now see, this information that I have was from the Attorney General's office. So I just got on their website and found it there. So it's accessible information that anybody can find. So it's just a good idea to know. But anyway, I hope this little bit of advice was helpful for some of you. It's just something that had been on my mind, and I wanted to talk to you all about it, just to try to make life a little easier for all of us and for the people living next to us. I just want to thank you all for stopping by, and for those of you that are returning, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for those of you who have subscribed. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. Really would help me out a little bit, and maybe give me a like. And I hope I see you next time. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.